Hey guys, this is Will of TyBL and welcome back to my channel. Since the second season of Love by Chance, or also known as A Chance to Love, has started yesterday, I'm going to discuss some of the confusions on the story. I will base this on the novel it was based on, but I cannot promise that this will be 100% accurate. Anyway, if you live in a different country and some BL series are not available to yours, you can use ExpressVPN to watch those restricted series. Use the link on the description below to have 49% discount and 3 months free if you opt to avail the 12-month plan. Without further ado, let's get right into the video. Before we get to some spoilers based on the novel, this part is worth mentioning. I know it wasn't just me who was so confused on the timeline of the story of Tin and Can. Based on the 2 first episodes of the second season, they haven't met up yet and they were a complete stranger to one another, a major contradicting part after the first season. We all know already that the last scene we have seen them together in the first season was when Can rejected Tin to be his boyfriend. Instead, the former offered him to be just a friend. According to the author of the novel, she had 2 options: whether to continue the story of Tin and Can on the first season or start all over again. She knew that it would be risky if she chooses the second option, but she did. The whole story of Tin and Can will start again from the very beginning. In my opinion, the reason why she did this is because the absence of Pete in the second season. Pete was one of the main reasons why Tin and Can would be much closer, and since he's gone, they couldn't do it now. Just to be clear, the story of A and Pete will follow what the ending was on the first season, while the story of Tin and Can will start all over again. Before I could explain how A and Pete broke up, I still need to show you this part because it played a major contribution why the two broke up. In the novel, Trump kidnapped Pete in order to extort more money from the latter. AE reported the incident on the police station, but since it wasn't 24 hours yet, the police didn't take it seriously. AE was so much angry to the police that he even wanted to punch their faces. Luckily, Type came and stopped him from doing his actions. After that, Can called AE and said that they could use the Find My Friend app to locate where Pete was. They just need the phone of Pete to be opened to do that, but since it wasn't, they couldn't find him yet. On the other hand, Pete was tied and was beaten so badly because of his ex-boyfriend. Trump asked Pete all of his passwords on the card in his online banking app on the phone. Pete gave everything of his money amounting to $2 million. He gave everything just to let him go away, but Trump wasn't satisfied and tried to take advantage of Pete's body. Trump would use it so he could blackmail Pete. Because Trump opened Pete's phone, Can finally found the location of Pete and was able to track them. When they infiltrated the area, AE couldn't control himself and he went to attack Trump. AE saw Pete was naked and was filled of blood on his body. He punched Trump that he could almost end the life of the latter. After that incident, they managed to send Trump to jail and couldn't bail because of everything he had done. In the novel, the breakup of A and Pete happened in the very last part of the book. They didn't break up in the middle of the story but towards the ending. The main reason why A and Pete broke up is because of Pete's father. His father learned that Pete was in the hospital because of Pete's grandmother, but he didn't went home immediately. Instead, he appeared after several months of the incident. Pete's father came from Germany and he even brought his second wife and his child. After a while in Thailand, Pete's father learned that Pete had a relationship with a man and he was so much angry with that. Not because of Pete but because of what the other people would tell to their family. His father was only thinking of their reputation even if it caused Pete's happiness. Also, Pete's father wanted to get back to Pete's mother by making their child unhappy. Pete's father offered $3 million to AE just to break up with Pete. But AE didn't accept the money and even tore the check in front of the old man. Later on, Pete's father used to get back to AE's family by manipulating their business. Their clients suddenly cancelled their orders and accused them of breaching of contract. That's why they ended up buried in debt. The exact total amount of their debt was the same to the amount that Pete's father offered to him. At first, AE was afraid to say that it was because of him the reason why they got a problem like that. Luckily, his family understood him and said that AE should not worry about that. But Pete's dad didn't stop in that and went extreme by manipulating the administration of their school. Pete's father used the administration wanted AE to be kicked out of school and be jailed because of what AE did to Trump when they rescued Pete. Because of that, Pete did everything to save the future of his boyfriend and offered to his dad that he should go with him in the Germany. He would be living in Germany with him for 2 years and would follow every order that his father would tell him to do. Pete said that his father wouldn't hesitate to accept the offer because he wanted to get revenge to Pete's mother. Another condition that Pete offered was to break up with AE in order for his dad to stop harassing their family. Later on, Pete went to AE and said that he would be breaking up with him and he would be living with his father in Germany for 2 years. Pete also said to AE that if the latter wanted to have another person in his life, he should not hesitate to open up his heart. Pete did not want AE to wait for him. Just like what we saw in the series, AE was so much devastated after Pete had gone to Germany. He said to himself that there was no point of living if he couldn't have Pete in his life. Pete had not updated his Facebook account for his whole duration of staying abroad, but AE kept on posting a selfie of him every day of what happens to him just in case Pete was looking at his Facebook account. AE tried to follow what Pete had said to him before they parted ways. He tried to have another person in his life. One of that was Chompu, but AE could only see Chompu as his Nong. The other one was when he was working already, but every night, he could only imagine the face of Pete. In other words, AE couldn't move on from his ex-boyfriend at that time. Fast forward 3 years after their breakup, Pete had finished his undergraduate degree on Germany and his master's on London. At first, it was only 2 years, but since Pete was so afraid that everything might change, he postponed his return in Thailand and pursued to study his master's. In the airport, he saw AE waiting for him with a bouquet of white flowers. Also, AE worked harder to attain what he had now and became an engineer. Later on, it was revealed that Pete's father was diagnosed of liver cancer. Pete had said that his father would not be able to mess up on their relationship because of his father's sickness. I know that we were all excited to see what happened in the story of Tin and Can after the first season, but since the author changed the script, she decided to start all over again. The first scene where the football team was having a competition was actually what comes next after to their story. The difference was Pete wasn't present in the series while he was in the novel. Pete knew that Tin and Can weren't in good terms, so he tried to persuade Tin to come with him to watch the play of the football team. It was because of Pete that the two could talk again. Can was so much happy when he saw Tin in the match, and he even thought that the latter was still mad at him. Also, the scene where Tin comforted Can while crying was basically the same as the novel. Can was so devastated with himself because they have lost in the match. Although in the series, it was Techno who was injured. In the novel, it was Type. But the same scenario was the same as the opening scene. Can only wanted to cry, that he even said to Tin that he wanted to cry although he was already crying. Tin even offered whether Can wanted to cry on their place. Can also forgot that his teammates were waiting for him, but he was carried away with Tin's comfort. Since they would redo the scenes of Tin and Can in the season 2, it was safe to assume that they would rewrite their scenes without Pete in it, since he was a major contributor on their relationship. We should not be so much angry to the author because we couldn't do anything for Saint's character. It was confusing at first, but let's see before we judge. They also changed the actors of some supporting characters, and some of those weren't present, such as the girlfriend of Pond and Can's best friend. If you want to support this channel, you can check my Patreon account on the link below. Thank you for watching. That's it, and see you on the next one.